Hey guys, so I was watching last night's video and I realized that I did not show the cutting process on my saw, and I'm doing a G10 build today. This is my first ever design that I came up with on my own. It's called the Batapult. Batapult, you know. The handle is designed after a bat's wing. Put it up there close where you can all see. I'm going to do it in orange, black, and green, kind of a Halloween themed type thing. It's officially fall of the year, so we're having a rainy day here where I'm at, but anyhow, we're going to get to it. So yesterday I gave you kind of a brief rundown of my tools, and this little tool right here is a Blade Runner XT, I believe is the name of it, Blade Runner XT saw. I don't know where my blade guard went. I've been using it without it. I don't advise that. I've got this fan set up to keep the dust blown off of the material as I'm cutting, and I'm going to mask up and we'll get started. Just a few quick things. When cutting G10, it's easiest to cut it with a router. I have a router, but I do not have like CNC capabilities to cut things with, so I'm having to use this. Regular blades aren't that great to cut G10 with. It's getting a little windy. I use Lennox bimetal blades, either the 14 teeth per inch or the 18 teeth per inch, or a Diablo carbide tipped blade. Those are what I've found works the best. So that being said, let's get to it. Okay, one thing when cutting G10 is these areas here. You're not going to be able to make those super quick curves to get in there, so you're going to want to do relief cuts, and you'll see what that is right here in just a second. I'll do relief cuts and then come in and cut it out. All right, so there is the first part cut out. Some of you may be wondering why I didn't use the scroll saw to cut this out. I tried when I first started cutting G10. I tried to cut it with a scroll saw. You'll burn through blades just like that. I mean, the G10 is a fiberglass composite material. Super tough, super hard, dang near indestructible. And you can't cut it with just anything. So that's why we move over to the Blade Runner and get these bimetal blades a hold of it. But that is how you cut it out. I've got a couple more pieces to cut out. I'm going to cut those out, and then I'll be back with you. It'll be a little bit for me, but it'll be shorter for you. I'll be back and show you what I do to prep them to glue them up. So hang tight. Okay guys, we are back. So I have my 3 pieces cut out, and they're going to go together, green in the middle, orange and black on the outside, like that there. So as far as gluing G10 together, you're going to have to use some kind of adhesive, some kind of glue to glue it together. What I have found works best is this. Bob Smith Industries Slow Cure 30-minute 2-part epoxy. It works really good. I'm a huge fan of this. Ever since I found it, it's great. You can get that 9-ounce kit on Amazon for 10 or 15 bucks. It's not that expensive. So what you're going to need, first of all, is go ahead and put on some gloves. Because you don't want to get epoxy all over your hands, so just go ahead, glove up. You don't have to use gloves, but like I say, if you don't, you're going to get epoxy all over you, so glove up. Next thing you're going to need is some sandpaper. And why do you need sandpaper? Let me show you. Down here where you can see what I'm doing. That's just a piece off of my orbital sander. The side you are gluing, you want to really get in there and rough it up. What this does is it makes a surface for the glue to adhere to, and gets it where your pieces will actually stick together. Let me get this down there where you guys can see it. Didn't realize I was out of camera. But just really get in there, rough it up, and get that surface area prepped as best as possible. Some people even go so far as to drill little dimples into the G10. I don't, because I have found that this works. It holds with no problem. Just to do that, see, I ripped the glove already. But yeah, just prep it. And the same with the centerpiece, you're going to have to do both sides. So you want to just get in there. And really what you're doing, I mean, you're literally scratching up the surface, taking away the shine, leaving only the dull portions. Because if you don't do this, you can try to skip this step, but your stuff will come apart. I have a piece that I'm going to have to fill in with some other kind of glue and clamp it because I didn't have all of the surface prepped like I should have. So that is, it's a crucial part of the process. I mean, really anything you glue together, whether it's G10, whatever material you're gluing together, you need to do this. Just whatever method of sanding works best. And you want to do it with a pretty aggressive grit. This is a worn down 60 grit pad. And what I like best about this Bob Smith Industries epoxy is that most of your epoxies, even your 5-minute stuff, it might set in 5 minutes, but the cure time on it is going to be anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. And if you're like me, when I start working on something, I wish it was done the minute I thought of it. So, tighten up my camera bracket here. Hold on just a second. My dog in the background. So that's got both sides of the green prepped. And then we're going to do one side of the black. My camera stand's not wanting to cooperate, guys. I apologize for not being able to see. Get in there a little bit more on this black. Alright, so that is all 3 pieces prepped and ready. Now then, just kind of blow them off, get any excess dust off and out of the way. I am going to go put on a new glove. Okay, I'm back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mix the epoxy. For that, I just use one of these big popsicle sticks. As you can probably tell, I've used that one before. But anyway, as far as mixing the epoxy goes, start with the resin part first. That's that. And I mix it on a piece of aluminum because it just cleans off easier and better. But you want to make, I make 2 separate piles, a little bit bigger than a quarter. And this is the hardener. And then get your popsicle stick. Mix, 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 mix. Mix those together really well. And you are ready to start putting epoxy on, glue on your G10. Now I try to spread it out and do a not a super thin layer, but a kind of thin layer, because if you wind up with too much, it's just going to squeeze out, and you're going to have glue all over the outside to sand off, which is no problem. You can sand it off, but it just takes up a little bit more time. A little bit more there on the fork. That's got that part coated. Let's go to the green part. The goof up, I put it on the wrong side first. But just again, you're just getting in there. Just rubbing epoxy all around and all over. For those of you who are wondering, who might be wondering, where is a reputable place to order G10 from? A couple of different places that I have found are Alpha Knife Supply and Macecraft Supply. I use Alpha the most of the two because I can get a little bit bigger pieces of G10 stock from Alpha. I usually get 11 by 8.5 pieces of G10 from them, and you can get around, depending on the size of the frame now, depending on the size of the slingshot, you can get anywhere from 3 to 6 frames. Out of that. Be right back. I'm getting a phone call. Sorry about that. So that was a quick phone call. That's how I like them. Short, sweet, and to the point. And we're going to have to mix up a little more epoxy here. So let's just do a little spot of hardener, or a little spot of epoxy. A little spot of hardener. Mix, 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 mix. There we go. Now then. Like I say, you want to really get in there with this. Get it on really good. And it is about to start coming down rain-wise. So then, put the pieces together and get some clamps. I usually have a couple of these, just the old school squeeze clamps. They work really great for this. I've also got more modern screw type clamps. Just make sure you get your edges, the top anyway, the forks, get them as even as possible. Now you know why I put on gloves, because you don't want to get this stuff all over you if you can help it. But just get it as even as possible. Another clamp there. And then I've got these slide out clamps like so. Work really well too. But you want to clamp it up. Now like I said, this stuff will set up in 30 minutes, but before I do any kind of, because I will be putting pins in this, I like to let it set up for about 2 hours. So we will just prop that up like so and let it dry, and we'll be back when it's time to drill it and pin it. Okay, we are back. As you can see from it no longer being daylight behind me, we are several hours later. But our frame that we've been working on is together enough to drill and pin. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark it off where we want our pins to go, and then we are going to pin it, or we're going to drill it and pin it. So to mark it off, you can use anything really. I mean, as long as you leave a mark on it, marker, pencil, pretty much anything. So grab that and be right back. Okay, as far as pins go, I usually just freehand it, just eyeball it and look. If they're a little off center or not perfectly lined up, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It adds aesthetic, it adds character to the piece, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, so we're going to go with 4 holes on this one, 4 pins. And 4 pins now, what I use are these really cool translucent acrylic rods. That's what I use for pins. I got these off Etsy, and I think we're going to go all orange on this one. Let's do 4 orange pins. I think that'll look really neat, match up really cool. So that's what we're going to do. As far as the length to cut the pins, about 1 inch long. And I'll go over here and cut these on my saw and be right back. Okay, we're back. We got our pins cut. As you can see, they're a really, really neat see-through orange color. The effect that these have in light is really, really cool. I like using them. They're really more of an aesthetic thing than they are an actual stability thing. I mean, the build doesn't really need them for structural integrity. They offer some mechanical connection, but not a ton. But with that being said, let's get the camera set up and over on the drill press where you can see the holes being drilled. Okay, so this is my drill press. I've got a 1/4 inch bit in this. That's what we'll be drilling our holes with. Something to remember when drilling G10 is be sure and hold pressure down on it, because it can walk up the drill bit and your holes will wind up being misaligned and all kinds of out of whack. So hold pressure. You also don't want to drill too fast. This is a hard material. You don't want to burn up a drill bit. One drilled, let's do the other 3. There we go. All 4 holes drilled. Pretty symmetrical, if I don't say so myself. So The reason I drilled them a little lower is because I plan on adding clips to this frame, so I needed this space up here free from any kind of holes or anything. So let's get you set back up and I'll show you putting the pins in. Okay, so as in our previous video, I want to go ahead and glove up. This gets a lot messier with the epoxy than the, I'm going to have to get another glove. That one has a finger missing. Hold on just a second. I've got a chocolate lab puppy that just turned a year old, and a few weeks ago she got into my gloves. And so they're dirty, and I tried to save as many as I could, so I'm finding that there are some of them that have some imperfections, but that's all right. So much the same as we did last time, we'll be using the Bob Smith Industries 2-part slow cure epoxy. Pop our stir stick up from the last batch. Want a spot about the size of a $50 for these pins, and I'll show you why, or well, you'll see why rather. Because these pins, they make a mess and they use a lot of the epoxy, but the end result is very, very worth it. So mix that hardener and resin together really, really well. Incorporate that in good. And then what I do is I just take a pin and just kind of give it a roll in the epoxy to coat it really good, and slide it in. Kind of wipe off the excess. Hit this back side with a little bit of the excess because it needs it. I apologize for not keeping you in perfect view of the camera. I am going to have to get a new stand because this one is not working as well as it should be by any stretch of the imagination. But see there, just wipe the excess off, and I just go to the back side just to make sure we get a good seal. Just kind of wipe it around and down around in there. Like I said, wipe off the excess, go to the back side, touch it a little bit. And you want the pins a little bit long, guys, because if you don't cut them a little bit long, then they might be, I mean, I'd rather have too much as not enough. And the bits that you cut off later, when we go to start sanding and finishing the frame, we can always reuse those. So get a little bit of epoxy on that back side of that. I'm just going to use some of this extra on the back side of these pins just to make sure we've got plenty, because you don't want them going anywhere. You want them to stay where you have put them. These rods are 1/4 inch thick They're or quarter-inch diameter. I'm sorry, quarter-inch diameter rods as well. So using the quarter-inch bit to drill the holes works really well. The majority of the time they have a super tight fit, but sometimes, like this time, they're a little looser. And then let's get a clamp and just kind of use it for a kickstand. We'll stand our frame up, adjust that pin just a little bit. I'll put one on this end too, just as a precautionary measure. And there you go. That is the pins done. And we are ready to let this sit and cure overnight totally. So I will be back tomorrow.